We've got upset alerts on tap for Week 12. And I want to take a look at 6 of them, and I've got some concerns out there. So Missouri is playing South Carolina in perhaps the most under-the-radar legit game this weekend. These are both teams that have at least whispered the word playoff about themselves. Whether you buy it or not, whether I buy it or not, is frankly irrelevant, because these are teams that have played either really good ball as of late or pretty good ball at some point this year. I see on the bottom of our screen here that our friends at FanDuel have put a line of 13.5 on this game in favor of South Carolina. Now, I have all the respect in the world for Missouri beating Oklahoma last week. Backup quarterback or not, I have respect for it, but this is a really tough spot for them. And you know the old stat that's been floating around a lot. Oh, they've been outscored 75-10 on the road in their 2 biggest road games, and it's true. They went to Alabama and got rolled. They went to A&M and got rolled. Okay, but Eli Drinkwitz is always good to pull one of these off per year. The problem is, as I see it, how many of those deep shots to Luther Burden and Theo Weiss can I trust Drew Pine to hit on the road in Williams-Brice Stadium, most underrated environment in college football, against this pass rush? And I don't have a lot of confidence. In fact, I think this is a showcase game for South Carolina. Now, I know Missouri is listening to this, and I understand that they will harness this, because knowing that program like I think I do, they are smart enough to take all of this disrespect coming out of my mouth, and they'll cue it up, and they should. But they're going to have to prove me wrong, because I think South Carolina has a decided advantage here. I've only got a 5 on the upset alert concern scale in this one. However, as we move deeper into the old slate on Saturday, there are some games that are not on anyone's radars that I think should be. Oregon's at Wisconsin Saturday. Oregon's favored by 13.5. This is a total ambush spot. I'm concerned about it, and I don't think many people are. You don't think Wisconsin's very good? Okay. You think Oregon's the best team in the country? Hey, I do too. But I have a little concern for a team playing their 8th consecutive game, flying across 2 time zones for the 3rd time in the last few weeks against a rested Wisconsin team whose preseason goals are sort of out the window, which just means you got a good coach in Luke Fickell with 2 weeks to prepare and to gear up for basically a Super Bowl. This is their playoff game. This is their national championship game. And they've run the ball fairly well, and I'm just telling you, if Oregon comes in there and plays B+ or better ball, they will win. However, what we know about college football teams, even the best ones, is over the course of a 12-game season, sometimes you just toss your C+ or C- effort out there. And it's in these kinds of spots disproportionately where it's more likely to happen. Tez Johnson got banged up last week. You're just trying to crawl into that bye week. You know what? That's not fair to Oregon. They're trying to surge into the bye week, but they're trying to get there nonetheless. Now, they do have a very late bye week. The trade-off is they got to play 8 games in a row to get there. And so this is the spot. This is a very, very big ambush spot. I got a 7 on the upset alert concern meter. I have my eye on this game. I think it very, very well could be a game that is close in the 4th quarter, and you're shocked by it because you've seen Oregon and I've seen Oregon take care of business in these spots this year. They smoked Illinois. They smoked Purdue on the road on short rest. I'm concerned about this one. That's what I'll say about it. 7 on the concern meter. Kansas is at Brigham Young. Now, as you know, we have exempted Brigham Young from the JP Poll's typical metrics and criteria. We have rated them over the past few weeks. However, I do need to inform you, Brigham Young is playing Kansas at home this weekend. They're favored by 2.5. That's home field. I mean, the odds makers at FanDuel are telling you these teams are equal on a neutral site. And Kansas has been bad at various points this year, but they have not been bad as of late. They are 3-6. So I need to tell you again now, for the folks who have been hating on the JP poll for not having Brigham Young really high, and I had to manually bump them higher than the model has them, and I keep trying to defend the position of the model, and that is that Brigham Young wouldn't be favored over a lot of these teams. Even though hats off to them for being undefeated, they wouldn't be favored over a lot of these teams, and I keep getting pushback on it. Well, here is Exhibit A. They're playing a 3-6 team at home this weekend, and they're favored by 2.5. That's the whole point. Now, they can go win by 30 and make all that irrelevant, but they're favored by 2.5. Here's why. Jalen Daniels is kind of back. The quarterback for Kansas, his first, 4 or 5 games, Jesse, they were bad. His last 4 games, though, have been exactly what we hoped and crossed our fingers and thought that he would be this year. The counter to that is a very, very scientific model we call Cougar Magic immunity. And they've had it out there all year. And this is going to be the best offense probably that Brigham Young has seen all year. But, I mean, think about the environment that Kansas is walking into. You got BYU undefeated in mid-November. The place will be insane this weekend. I've got a 9 on the upset alert concern scale because I've watched Kansas play recently, and they don't look anything like their former selves. And I've seen Brigham Young get by really, really close a few times. All credit to him for winning. This is an extremely dangerous spot for him. Next week at Arizona State is a dangerous spot for him. Who knows? Houston to end the season may be a dangerous spot for him. Just watch out for this. I have not heard anyone talking about this game this weekend, at least in an extended fashion. I'm concerned about it. And we'll leave it at that. By the way, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you haven't already, it's free. We do the show free 3 times a week. It's just college football. We love it. We love it. We don't talk about anything else. And so it costs you nothing to subscribe, and it doesn't even affect you. It just helps us. So we would appreciate it. Boise, what are they doing this weekend? Anybody? Well, they're going to San Jose State. Now, Boise's favored by 13.5. I only have a 6 on the upset alert concern scale, but a 6 is that's worth watching. And I'll tell you why. Everyone knows who the best G5 running back is. Ashton Genty, right? Maybe the best tailback in the country at any level. However, we're not here on Thursday night in our upset alert segment to point out what everyone knows. What I want to point out is the best wide receiver at the G5 level. Anyone? Cue the Jeopardy music. Anyone? Nick Nash. Would be a great WWE ring name, but it also happens to be the guy who leads FBS in virtually every category. He leads in receptions. He leads in receiving yards per game. He leads in receiving touchdowns. And I mention that because Boise's pass defense is in the 100s. That's the good news if you're pulling for an upset. The bad news if you're pulling for an upset is San Jose State against the run is 75th. Basically what I just told you is blindly take the over, although I myself am not, so that's kind of hypocritical. But I've got a 6 on this. They scooted barely by Nevada last week. What have we told you about November? When you're a contender in November, boy, the air gets a lot thinner. I always use the tightrope walk analogy. If you're walking a tightrope and it's 10 feet off the ground, and you walk another tightrope and it's 100 feet off the ground, technically you walk the tightropes the same way. However, from the neck up, in your mind, you handle that 100-foot tightrope walk different because you know the consequences are fatal if you screw up that high. 10 feet, ow, I sprained my ankle. That's about the worst of it. Mick Foley fell further than that in Hell in a Cell in 1998. Boise's tightrope is getting higher and higher and higher by the week, and just some weird stuff can happen. Virginia is at Notre Dame. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to present to you the idea that Virginia could beat Notre Dame. However, I'm going to talk about it anyway. I'm going to put a 3 on the upset alert concern scale. We cannot ever exempt Notre Dame from falling in these sorts of spots because we have seen them fall as 20-plus point favorites a couple of times, including this year already at home against Northern Illinois, although I have been dutifully informed by the committee that I'm supposed to forget about that. They'll call us a Notre Dame hater show for that comment, by the way. Notre Dame. 50-plus points back-to-back weeks. Good. That's very good. Virginia, they've beaten Pitt. They play Louisville close. Notre Dame, they kind of feel to me nationally like they're in this spot where everyone is looking towards the Army game, and then they know Notre Dame's got to go to Southern Cal at the end of the year, but it's largely about where they'll be seeded in the playoff. Will they be ahead of or behind losing teams coming from conference title games? And this whole time, Virginia's just girding up their loins to go into South Bend, 22.5-point dogs. And I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking to myself, Virginia's been scrappy this year. They have been. And I don't think that this game has people's full attention. And so I'm only putting a 3 to a 3.5 on the upset alert concern scale. I'm interested in these points, though, namely all 22.5 of them. I have not had Director Colin add it to the Ramen Noodle Express, but I have my eye on it. Friday Night Lines tomorrow night on the old Instagram at Late Kick Josh. And lastly, and we have sort of breaking news on this game, Florida is playing host to LSU Saturday. And we did have Billy Napier at his coach's show about 30 minutes ago as we're live. We're live on Thursday night. If you're watching a replay, I'm talking to you at 7:13 p.m. Central Time on Thursday night. DJ Lagway is good to go. DJ Lagway is back, and so he will start at quarterback for Florida. That line already dropped from 4.5 to 3.5. LSU is a 3.5-point favorite, and I don't know, frankly, that most of America realizes that line is that short. But I'll tell you two things. Firstly, this is a tough spot for LSU. But they still got a lot of their postseason goals in play. I don't think people realize it, but they could still win the SEC championship. They could still go to the playoff, and it wouldn't take 15 crazy things happening. But they got to keep winning. Okay, so they haven't checked out. However, man, they got to get back up after getting their spine ripped out by Alabama last week, and they got to go on the road against a Florida team that is a 4-win team right now. They got 3 games left. All right, they got this one. They've got Ole Miss coming in there, and then they go to Florida State. They got to win 2 of these 3 to be bowl eligible. So they've still got that to play for, but I'm just going to shoot straight with you guys. Odds makers don't think Florida's that bad a team, especially with DJ Lagway. The effort they gave against Tennessee, the effort they gave against Georgia up until Lagway went out, and then you didn't have Lagway against Texas, and odds maker looks at that and says, don't really care about the Texas outcome. They got blown out. Lagway's back, different team. They could beat LSU outright. And you know what? For a program that just announced we're keeping Billy Napier, this would be big validation that we made the right move. We made the right call. I've got a 7 on the upset alert concern scale, but I put that 7 on this sheet of paper like an hour and a half ago. Now that I know DJ Lagway's playing, you know what, Jesse? Manual over right here. 8.5. 8.5. LSU better be heads up here. Always a tough game. There's a long and storied history in that LSU-Florida rivalry. And I think we could add another chapter this weekend.